I used to be a drug addict and like almost died a couple times.
Robbie Bent built Othership from a horse trough in his backyard into one of the most talked about wellness brands in North America.
Nobody's ever gonna group sauna. Like, this is insane. You're gonna lose all your money.
What started as a backyard experiment became a company with sold-out locations, thousands of devoted members, and a movement people tried to copy.
Fighting with construction workers on the site because I can't pay them. I mortgaged my house. My co-founders mortgaged their house. My mom, she mortgaged her house.
Before the waitlists and packed classes, there were sleepless nights, cold sweats, and the very real possibility of losing everything.
I think I'm gonna go personally bankrupt.
Most people think that the fear disappears when the company succeeds. Robbie says it doesn't.
I'm afraid. What if somebody's better than us? What if we're not the best anymore?
This is a conversation about addiction, fear, friendship, and what it actually takes to build something meaningful.
Is it possible to get rid of fear?
I don't think so.
Hi, everyone. We are at Othership in Flatiron, New York. I'm about to interview Robbie Bent, the founder of Othership, who has an insane story of building this business, now an iconic brand, some would say a cult, with him and his 4 co-founders persevering through obviously blood, sweat, and tears, but also through multiple permit issues, almost running out of money. Absolutely unbelievable how they've got to where they are, about to open up another location in Upper East Side, and truly building a brand that has such a crazy amount of detail. I'm excited to talk to him about culture and values of Othership, how they managed to have such an incredibly strong team. I'm excited to talk to him about his wife and the relationship with her, about becoming a father, about fear and hard moments of building this business, which continues to be really hard. So I think it's going to be a jam-packed conversation, and I can't wait for you guys to listen to it. Let me know what you think, and let's get to it.
Such a beautiful thing.
100%. Well, Robbie, thank you so much for being here and doing this. I'm curious, we're talking about the beauty of living in communal spaces. Why not build a communal space that could maybe become an extension to Othership?
I think to build something big, like a long goal over time, it's important to have the goal. So for us, the goal is that people feel more comfortable processing emotions, and that becomes a ritual that's practiced daily amongst the mainstream population, and that it becomes much easier to make friends. So those 2 things, I think in today's day and age, are super important, and what kind of inspired Othership. So that's a long-term goal, but to get there, you need to create a business that's profitable along the way. And I think where people fail is they try to do something too big without the right steps. And so for tech founders, you see like, the Elon Musk master plan was like the Model 3. There's usually a niche community that likes something that's profitable, and then you build on it slowly. And so for us, that was the sauna ice bath. It was kind of the Trojan horse, the thing that people wanted to do for physical health. But then when they get there and do it, you realize like, oh, it's actually an emotional health practice, and it's a way to easily make friends because it takes away any social anxiety. It kind of operates the same way that alcohol does. So it's kind of a hidden platform that allows people to become friends. So the first thing was like, okay, well, let's build a physical space in urban cities where people will come frequently, and it's profitable enough that you can build many. So that was like kind of step 1 and where we're at now. Step 2 for me was to have something that people can engage with daily. So that was an app, so we have a breathwork app, kind of operates like prayer and religion, so you have a daily practice. And then step 3 would be a mega retreat center. And so I really want to build is a massive outdoor, 100,000, 200,000 square
Like a
feet.
therme.
Like a therme, exactly. Like that exact product, but with Othership style and more focused on creating friendship and emotional release than a traditional spa. And so, if you really like Othership and you come weekly and you make your friends here, you then take the weekend trip, maybe an hour outside of New York, 2 hours outside of New York. You go to the space, you spend the day there. There's farm to table food. Maybe you spend the weekend, there's a hotel, and there's like little mini retreats that are more accessible than, I got to fly to do Tony Robbins or something like that. So I think that's the next step for us. And then the step after that would be, okay, build out like the community itself. So I couldn't think of a way to like build the community, the living co-live community as the starting point with like the amount of capital and the brand we have. So, potentially over a 20-year time horizon. But for now, it's very clear, more Otherships in more cities, one big retreat space where people can come to go deeper. And I think that'll keep me busy for
A long time.
maybe 10 years or whatever.
Yeah, actually on the community space house or community on the community house, I think the other problem is that you really have to introduce people to this idea first and kind of expand the pie, kind of like what you guys did with Othership. At first, it was a little too woo-woo, a little too different. And now, look, there is so many places that copy the exact concepts of Othership. So perhaps it's, you know, you introduce this communal feel first with the things that you were doing, and then you do the therme, and then people are so primed for communal space, then that's phase 3.
Exactly. So I think that's what will happen over time. And so just being alive to like capitalize. And I don't know, I think great brands, like I'm very inspired by stories of founders that work on things for 30 or 40 or 50 years, and they're just passionate over and over, and they become masters of their craft through long time horizon. And so I just think it's very special when you decide to like, oh, I'm going to work on this thing for a very, very long time. It's much easier to be successful in that way. So that's kind of how I think about it, is just day after day, super long time horizon.
So on that point, you guys started Othership as a fun project in your backyard, in your garage. At which point, do you remember when did it become obvious that this is a real business? When did you make that commitment?
Yeah, so at first it was just a horse trough. So legitimately like a actual trough that horses drink water out of.
Oh, wow, okay.
In my backyard. And we would go to the grocery store every day and buy $60. Remember that amount was $60 worth of ice. It was about 30 bags of ice.
And tell me, who is we? Was it you and the other co-founders?
Yeah, so it was myself and my wife. And we had just moved back to Toronto. We were really nervous about being, I used to be a drug addict. And so I was really nervous about being around people in Toronto who were, you know, nightclubs, doing drugs. I didn't want to be in those environments. And so we were like, oh, I wonder if we built this ice bath, if we can use it to create a healthy community. So by hand, my wife and I, another couple, and one of my best friends from university, we built this ice bath by hand. And every night we would be in our backyard. There'd be a fire going and it was just free. And it was pretty weird at the time. Like, this is in 2019. So it's before ice baths and stuff is really taking off. So, you know, I'd be telling people like at the corner store, I'd be telling my neighbors like, come by, and they would just open the door. There'd be a fire going and we'd do an ice bath and then kind of hang out. And that became really popular. So we thought it started getting cold out and nobody wanted to just ice plunge in, you know, the winter in Toronto. So we had this, my landlord had this other space attached to our house. And it was a woodworking space. And so we converted it into an underground sauna ice bath space. And then that grew to 1,000 people. But it was still like not a business. It was just something fun we were doing to make friends.
And how long into the side project was that? Was it 6 months?
Yeah, so it was about 3 months in the backyard all summer. And then the garage started and we ran the garage for, you know, probably a year. It was a fairly long time. It was still, the idea wasn't, you know, it was COVID also. So we started the garage pre-COVID. COVID hit and people were using it with an app to like let themselves in with no employees. And so it was like a safe haven for people to still socialize in their bubbles. So it was like a really important space for people at that time in Toronto. And we just saw like, you know, after doing that for a year, I was in there every day and I saw relationships blossom. I saw people become friends. I saw addicts stop doing drugs. I just felt like it felt meaningful. And I would be telling people like, hey, I think they're actually like changing their lives. I'm like, what are you talking about? This is a garage. Like, what do you know, like you're crazy. And so myself and my partners decided to self-fund our first unit. And it was a pretty big jump. So like a leap of faith. Like, it was still COVID. The vaccine had come out. I remember the landlord and some of the early press were like, this is disgusting. Nobody's ever going to group sauna. Like, this is insane. You're going to lose all your money. And we were like, oh, you know what? Like, I think we have a community and we can do it. And so we signed a lease and we self-funded the first space, spent $2 million on it. Kind of put up like all our money that we had made in crypto and other things, and just took a huge bet. And at that point, when that opened, you know, it was proving out two things. One, that you could do these emotional classes in the sauna, so that had never been done before. The idea that like you'd have these classes and performances, and then two, that people would socialize without alcohol in a bathing space. That had never really been done before in North America either. And as soon as we opened, there was, you know, 3-week waits, 1-month waits. And I kind of saw the reviews and I see like, oh, wow, this is like really special and really unique and it doesn't exist. And so at that point, 2022, February, we've been working on it on the side for almost 3 years. And that's when it became a business. We were like, okay, we're going to try to build this in other cities.
Wow. So when you say that in 2022 it was still a side business, were you guys working on something else, each one of the co-founders, or what you meant by that is that's when you started thinking about expanding?
Well, I was still working for Ethereum,
Oh, you
actually.
were
Yeah.
from 2020 to 2022.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So about 2020, from 2019 to about 2021. And so like right when we started construction on that project, it started to become more full time. And we opened, it was like, wow, this is a lot of work and it's time. There's something like really here. Yeah. And then it was like, okay, this is going to require all of us
Yeah.
full time. And then we all just kind of went after it.
So the story of multiple co-founders working out and still being together is quite unheard of. Tell me more about how did you guys become so aligned on the vision, and were you the one spearheading the vision? Was there, too many cooks in the kitchen at some point? What is the dynamic like?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think, maybe in the whole world, I don't know that there's ever been two couples as co-founders.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So especially for something that's successful. And I think it was, why it's so special is because this is like our passion. So to find, like, I did this every week, every day. Harry and Amanda were working on it for 10 years. Like they were trained sauna masters in Europe. It's just like what we loved. And so to do something that you love, the chance of that is
very slim.
Minimal. And then to do it with your friends, like your best friends, like again, almost a zero. And then to have it be successful, you have like three things that are like almost zero chance. So it's just, I feel I could try for the rest of my life to do something and never find an opportunity like this again. So it was really magical. And so, I think at the end of the day, when you go through hard stuff, it bonds you. And so to bond you even tighter with your family and friends, it's amazing. And there's something really special and magic that happens. Like co-founder energy is very rare and you have to protect it. And when you're around other people at the next level down, that co-founder energy is like creates magic in the organization. And so when you have 5 people, like one of us can be in one space every day, we can be in different cities. And so it's just so inspiring for the team below us. And we've been able to get so far without senior hires because there's 5 of us. So it really has been, I think, almost a secret weapon. On the flip side, yeah, it's challenging, right? Like there's 5 and to all be together, like we're 7 years in now and we're still all working on it full time, which I think shows is just like the commitment and love for the product. But yeah, it was challenging for sure to find out like who's doing what. And I think why it worked is because when we started, it wasn't really meant to be a business. It was just like a fun side project. So it's just very clear. You're going to work this night. I'm going to work this night. When we designed the first space, it was kind of like, hey, we're going to open this thing, but it's a one-off unit. We're all going to put in a bunch of money, a little bit of money and see what happens. And then people just kind of found their groove, and so they have deferred to me in terms of like strategy. So where are we going to open? How are we going to figure it out? How are we going to finance it? How are we going to do the storytelling of the brand? My wife became the lead creative and head of marketing. So she runs our app, the language, every social post, how our brand shows up. She's an incredible job. She manages a team of 10 people. She's really scaled. Her skill set was unbelievable. Miles had done a bunch of restaurant stuff in the past. So he's one of my best friends. And so he took on construction operations. And then Harry and Amanda are like these magical humans that have like the dedication. Harry went to architect school, Amanda went to business school, but they're also super creators. So Harry's a musician, an artist, and they were facilitators. And so they created all the programming. So I think what's very unique about Othership is a lot of founders will have a business idea and then they're like, oh, let's external hire the yoga teacher to make the thing. And like for us, we are the ones that create all the content on our app, all the programming, all the classes. So they're really like the soul of the brand. So having all those skill sets together, they just kind of naturally developed. And because they're mostly like product skills, nobody's really been replaced yet. Like there are unique skills that require founders. So it's a lot of like voice, products, marketing. There's not anyone in the world at this point that's really better than us at like Bathhouse classes because they didn't exist before. And then luckily everybody had the same vision where it was like, hey, we all have been like moderately successful before. We're taking salaries now and like we're happy to do this for a really long time with our friends. So no one was like, oh, I want to sell. And like, it was like, let's build this for 20 years, which is also very, very rare. Most people start a company, 5 years, try to sell it, massive exit. Like that's not the goal for us. Our goal is like, what can we do every day that's going to bring us joy? And it's really hard, but it's so much fun. Oh, and it's so rewarding, so to work on your passion. So I think a lot of things we've experienced together that are just very uncommon as a group have led to this kind of successful thing. And you just feel like, wow, the world just kind of works in mysterious ways, I guess.
Yeah, that's really incredible. And as you said, unheard of. I recently was talking to Sam Parr, doing a similar interview with him, and he said that one of the very common things among successful people that they've pointed out is the importance of luck, just the importance of things, stars align in the right way, and you just have no control over it, but something magical and unique has happened. And it sounds like that's the case with you and your co-founders.
Yeah, I think you have to have surface area for luck. So it has to be lucky. Like, when we started this, it didn't exist. And the desire for health from COVID exploded. The desire for mental health, the issue of mental health and cell phones, the desire to drink less. Like, there's so many mega tailwinds that are happening. It's not like we planned, hey, all this stuff is going to happen. We were just building this experience that worked for us, that we loved. And it just happened to be like perfect timing, really. But yeah, you can never plan that stuff. However, we were working on something that we were really interested in. And so I think the more you work on something that you love, the luck kind of comes. So that's, you're never going to get lucky if you don't create surface area for luck, but both are important.
Yeah, 100%. So for, deciding on who is going to be your co-founder, one of the most important conversations to have is like, what outcome do you want to have with this business? And it sounds like, was it truly the case that all of you were exactly aligned on wanting to build it for 10, 20, 30 years?
Yeah, because the idea it wasn't really a business where we sat down Y Combinator style. We're like, here's our idea. We're going to get investor capital. It was just like, hey, this is a fun thing we're doing in a backyard to make a community. So we just did it for fun. Then when we built the first one, it was like, I think this will be successful, but it was, again, like, it's going to be a fun place for us. It's not like it's going to be life-changing building one unit. So again, it wasn't really a real business. It was just like, we think we're going to build this one thing, and it's going to be the best hot cold space in the world.
Yeah.
And then after that, we kind of positioned to, okay, the position became like, what do we want to do with this? And everybody, like, it was such a part of our identity for those 3 years where we were building that first space. There wasn't the desire to sell. The desire was like, how do we continue to do this together?
Yeah.
How do we create more? How do we have a bigger impact? How do we spend more time together? Like, these are my best friends, So it was really, I just couldn't imagine a piece of money that would be better than that. And this is like what I feel like I want to do. So sometimes I get stressed about financial scarcity. So we've had times, where we ran out of money. We've had times where bills were way over. It's very hard to predict how much one of these will cost, especially when you're doing multiple builds, how fast it's going to ramp. So you can feel like you're in a space of financial safety and then be very quickly in a space of like, wow, I don't know if we can even finish this build. And in those moments, sometimes the stress is like, fuck, I wish I didn't do this. Yeah. Like, it does feel like that. But not because I don't like the work, but more because I'm afraid that like I'm going to lose my house and go bankrupt. And so brick and mortar is very different than a normal startup in that, like, you sign the leases, you personally guarantee them. There's so much CapEx required up front, and you're kind of on the hook for it. So the only moments when I'm like, I wish I sold this are when I feel like it's going to fail or we're going to run out of money. And like sometimes it's a real fear, and that's very hard to deal with. But outside of that, the day-to-day of the actual work it's like incredible. Like, we were downstairs talking about our next space and like what we're going to put in it. It's so inspiring. Like, it lights me up. So that's why I think all of us were like, yeah, let's keep doing it. Like, what else? What do we do?
That's amazing. Tell me more about a recent moment when it was close to falling apart.
Well, this one wasn't recent, but this was probably like the worst moment. So 2 years ago, we were opening in New York. We had this first success of this Adelaide, like, smaller one, this $2 million one that we self-funded. And when that was working, it was like, okay, well, I think we have the money. We raised $2 million to build a second one in Toronto, double the size, because there was so much demand. And then we raised $8 million to build 2 in New York. And we signed 2 leases. And I totally fucked up the budget of these. I based them on Toronto. We found out that what we wanted to build in New York was actually illegal. We signed a lease and didn't realize, like, we have co-ed change rooms, which are much smaller in Toronto. And so people come to the experience, they change in stalls, but they're all together. And in New York, that's illegal. So the lease we signed, the space wasn't big enough. So I had to go back and change the lease and rent the basement and cut through the floor to suspend the pools of the basement. So the budget exploded. So I had $8 million to build 2. I'd signed 2 leases. I think it was really naive at that point of that first one being successful that like, hey, I can do 3 of these in 2 countries in parallel. So that was a big dream that, you know, I was probably overconfident. Turned out for the best, but at that moment, that first one, we'd found out, oh my God, this is going to be $7.5 million. And we also didn't have the money to finish it. And we made a mistake, an accounting error, using a third-party accounting team where an invoice was missed. It was marked as paid. And so I got this call. As this guy gets on this call with me and he's like, hey, I just want to let you know, we owe this construction company $2 million. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And he was like, yeah, well, you're probably going to be out of cash in like 20 days. What? And so he said, hey, well, why don't you just raise some equity? And I was like, well, it's not how it works. You can't just raise equity in 20 days. And so I was in New York. We couldn't get open. We couldn't get our permits. We were delayed, way over budget. And I was kind of at that point, I also had another lease signed that was like sitting there. And so I was just like, man, I have this lease. I can't build. I have this other space that costs so much money. I don't know if this is even going to be successful in New York. I don't know if I can even finish this build. I was fighting with construction workers on the site because I can't pay them. But if they don't finish the job, they'll never get paid. I was smoking a vape all day. Like every day I was going down to City Hall and like begging them to give me a permit to like temporarily open. And at that moment, we had to figure out how to get the money. And so I mortgaged my house. My co-founders mortgaged their house. I had to call my mom. She mortgaged her house. And we had to do that to get a couple $1 million to lend the company personally, which is still like, we're still guaranteeing those loans. But we did it. We ended up getting open. We had 18,000 people in before we even opened. It was profitable month 1, month 2, it like blew the projections out of the water. And so even though we spent so much, that unit is still going to be a very good return. And then the second one, we were able to cut like 30, 40% out of the build. We figured out all the problems we had in the first one and it opened successfully. So we solved it. But there was moments there where I was like, okay, I don't know how I'm going to open this. I think I'm going to go personally bankrupt. I've destroyed our entire brand. I wish to God I'd never heard the words New York in my life. And I was like, really, like, you know, I would every 3 days, 4 days, I would wake up just cold sweats with like nightmares, just like almost crying. And so it was and then my son was born at that time. So it was pretty intense. It was pretty intense. So we figured that out. And that's just like, it's very hard with these physical businesses to understand your costs in advance of building. It's almost impossible, especially for your first one in like a new city.
What made you push through it and actually, you know, mortgage your houses out? Was there no other option, or were you seriously, okay, like, fuck this, I'm just going to not do the New York and let's sell the business?
No, I mean, like, you can't sell a business. I don't even think it's worth anything with just like, you know, I don't even know if it's worth the debt when you have a stuff that's not performing with just 2 Canadian units. So there was just kind of like no option. It's like, hey, you have to figure this out. And like raising money, like we'd put already 4 years into this. And every day I'm seeing people like having these life transforming events. Like I have a book at home with over 2,000 messages. So every time someone sends me a message, or I see a special review, or someone gets married at Othership or finds their partner, we've had 5 couples that met.
That's amazing.
They have been married. Some have had babies.
Wow.
So they always send me messages. And so I keep them in this book. So
Wait, is it a physical book?
Yeah.
Wow. So you print it out.
We have this thing called the Daily Happy where we save all these things in like so anyone can post it. It's called Best Testimonials in Discord. And then those testimonials, the best ones, get put in the Daily Happy, and then that gets sent to our staff 3 times a week. So you're always seeing like the difference that you're making.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing when you feel really stressed is like, I would go to the class and I hear someone share that like, oh, I just did a organ transplant for my son and like he was going to die and now he's not. And people were like, it's unbelievable, that experience. So I was seeing that happen. And then our company was profitable in Toronto. We put so much work into it, and, you know, to raise money when you need it in 20 days, the terms you're going to get are so punitive. And so people were offering me, they were trying to take advantage of me. And I was like, you know what, like, fuck this. No way, you know? I still to this day remember these investors who did this, and they're in like my grudge book of like, fuck you. Yeah. And so just the terms weren't good. And so I was like, you know what, like we can figure this out. It's working. I knew when we opened in New York, it was going to work because the product is so good. And I just felt it. And so I really, like, it was a bad time and a bad situation, but there was never any doubt that like the product is phenomenal and new and unique, and New York needed it. And so we just believed in ourselves, bet on ourselves, and did. what it took. And as a result, I maintained equity and control and like didn't have some shitty deal and some sharky investor. So it turned out, but it was definitely a big swing.
Yeah, that's an incredible story of perseverance. And on fear, what are you scared of right now?
I think every time, there's the market is becoming more competitive. Like when we started, we were the first person, and there's been inspired concepts in, the UK and France. In each city we're in, there's obviously inspired concepts. And so always when I hear about one, I try to ignore it, but in my bones, it's like, oh, are they going to be better than ours? Are they going to be the best? Are we going to still be the best? I mean, it sounds like I think we still are, but we spend.
You guys still are.
Yeah, so we spend so much time to make it the best, but I fear that's like, what if we're not the best anymore? And so that is a big driving factor as well of just like, hey, we put this thing out, we put our entire lives into it. It's part of our identity. We've written all the scripts, we designed the space, we've done everything. Like, I want it to be the best. That's a massive driver. And like, no detail is too small. Like every single one of our playlists is like handcrafted. Every class, we're mixing, mastering the music together into like a specific track. We're designing now custom light shows that like work with the music and the sound. We're just elevating. Like our new space has in the tea room sound transducers. So the tea room itself, the benches will vibrate with the sound. So it kind of creates
That's
like
insane.
a tactile experience. So always just trying to make it better. So I think that's one that fears me. And then two is like financial scarcity. Like, to some degree for a brick and mortar business, if people open beside you, it's like, oh, well, like, what if they fragment the market? What if it's not successful? I think for me, I had a company that went bankrupt when I was in my 30s, and I was like pretty close to broke. I had maybe $60 left in my bank account. I had to move in with my mom and my dad. And so that was embarrassing. And the thought of like that, I can't like get it out of my body, even though let's say like everything's going super well. So I think those are really the two fears. It's like, what if somebody's better than us? And that's like a very powerful driver for making the best thing. And my co-founder, Harry's the opposite than me, because he's like, I'm like paranoid and he's like ultra confident. Like when a new place opens, I want to go check it out. And I like this, Sam Walton is like an entrepreneurial hero, and he would I follow all the brick and mortar entrepreneurs to find which ones I like and like learn from them. So Sam Walton would go to Kmart on his vacations and always try to get 2 ideas to make Walmart better. And so that's my vibe, is like, go to every place, do this every week, try to find out how we can always elevate. And Harry's like, we don't need to do that, man. It's like, it's the best. Like, I'll make it the best personally. Like, he's so confident. So it's a really nice juxtaposition. But yeah, I'm more afraid naturally, I think, because of my upbringing. So that's what I'm scared of. And it's tough. Like the financial scarcity stuff is real. Like even now, the new space we're building was initially going to be...
When is it opening?
Next year in the summertime. Yeah, so all the designs are done. It's went to bid. We should be starting construction in a couple months, but it's a big swing for us. So we initially were building, we're going to build a 5th Othership on the Upper East Side, same thing, but the space was like a little bit too big. So we were like, oh, what do we do with the
You're doing
extra
a
space?
Bathhouse concept, right? Yeah, I heard it on one of the interviews. Really excited about it.
The initial was going to be a regular Othership, plus we had like a few extra 1,000 square feet. And we're like, oh, do we do massage in that space? That doesn't really feel on brand. And we're like, oh, do we do something private? That's kind of cool. Sometimes people want it quieter. And they're like, oh, what about like a mini bathhouse? And then we're going to have it in 2 sides. So it'd be like super premium bathing space at a different price point than it's known in New York, but with programming. So, there'd be program classes in the steam room, program classes in the pools. Everything would be slightly different. And then most recently we were like, well, if we're going to do the bathhouse, why don't we go all out? So we took even more space. And now we're building what we're calling like the first social spa. So it's a spa where you'll be doing many treatments, but together in groups in like a class format.
That's very unique.
Yeah, so it's never been done before. So again,
Wait, what's an example of a treatment?
So we're doing something now that I haven't seen in the US. We've seen it in Europe and in Canada, and we're trying to elevate. I like to go into these like fringe experiences, get inspired by them, and then kind of make them a little more mainstream. And so a new one is called a Rasul. And so there's a steam room with showers in it. And so we saw this in Thermea in Canada and got inspired by it initially. And so the idea is you come with this easel, and there's a scrub, a clay, a face moisturizer. And so you come into the steam with this easel, you scrub your body in a group. Maybe somebody, if you're with your partner, will scrub each other. Shower comes on, washes you off. You'll then put clay on your body. And while the clay is baking, the steam starts going. And while that steam starts going, the guide may lead a group song. They may play a sound bowl and do a sound bath. They may do a breath work. So it's kind of taking the classes we've been doing in the sauna and moving them into the steam room. Once you're like super hot, the clay is baked, showers come on again, you wash off. And so when you come out, it's like you had an individual scrub treatment, your body, your skin feels amazing, but you're doing it in a group. So it's like part fun, part spa treatment at a much more affordable price than a one-on-one scrub. So the idea is, how do you take these like very expensive spa treatments, make them a little bit more accessible, make them a little more social? Then that's going to be the theme of the Upper East Side space. Now, that space, when we initially thought it was going to be, $5-6 million, and it's going to be multiples of that. And so every day I'm like stressed about it, but I think we just want to build the best thing. And I know building the best thing is costly. And so it's a huge bet that only a founder can make. Like when you have a successful business model and it's like, well, why are you changing it? And I think we're elevating and evolving with like what the market wants.
Yeah, you have to reinvent yourself all the time, especially given the competition.
Exactly. It's much easier. I mean, no one's built what we've done to the level that we've done it. It's very hard to like design one of these spaces. Not many people have done it. It's very capital intensive. Then to train and create all the content and programming, it's another like, for a single unit brick and mortar operator, it's quite complex. But it happens, and people are building sauna nice best spaces. But to build a social spa with this level of programming and investment, it's not something that many people will be able to compete on.
Yeah.
And so we also think having multiple different versions in a city is a super unique. So, if you're a big Flatiron customer, but it's something special, you'll drive up to Upper East to try this
For sure.
thing.
I'm super excited to drive up.
So that's what we found. And it's kind of just pushing the envelope of like what's possible. And I think we've done that with the best sauna cold plunge experience in the world, but nobody's really innovated on the spa, like the pool, the steam,
100%.
There's nothing there. Like it hasn't changed in thousands of years. So is there a way to use programming to make those experiences new?
I am super excited for the space. I love treatments. I love the day spas. I love the group classes. So it's a combination of all the things. So I'm really excited for Upper East Side space. And I have so many bookmarks in my mind about the things that I want to double tap on. One that I want to start with is actually just this concept of fear and getting rid of fear. Mm-hmm. You've done a ton of personal work. You've been, to the cave, to Hoffman, to all these different retreats. Do you feel like you made the fear that comes up inside of you smaller because of all the work that you've done, or is it still the same?
No, I think it's the same.
Is it possible to get rid of fear?
I don't think so.
Why not?
So is it possible? Perhaps. Is it possible for me? I'm not sure. Maybe I'm a scared person naturally, but it's like I'll be afraid, but I'll do it. But it doesn't make it feel better. And it kind of reminds me of the cold plunge. It's like you look at it, and I've done it thousands of times, and every time I'm not like, oh, it's going to be awesome. Just like, and then after you feel amazing, it's like that kind of feeling, if you have to let somebody go in your organization or give bad news to an investor or like have a challenging call to hold a boundary, like it's always hard. And there's always like a little bit there.
Is it that most of the times it's the fear of an anticipation of the experience, or is it the pain during the experience itself?
No,
that
it's the anticipation. The pain during the experience is never usually actually that bad, It's always just like, oh, these 10 things are going to happen.
Yeah.
I've seen something, I saw Brian Johnson talking about like, writing something at the end of the day to let your mind know to stop worrying about it. I thought that was a good idea, but I've just been too lazy to like try it. So I just think fear is also related to like what happened to you as a child. So my wife is like never afraid for the business. I'll talk to her. She's like, you're like a black cloud, like this is going great. Like just chill out. But then when something happens in our family and health, I'm always like very optimistic because when I was a child, like nothing really bad happens. With my like relationships, I was super lucky. So those things I feel like so optimistic, like, yeah, we're just going to get through it. But business, like money stuff really scares me. So it's like a really good practice, but I still will wake up. And if I feel sick and like low energy, like if I feel high energy, it's like, yeah, we're going to cry. Of course, it's so amazing. And if I feel low energy, it's tough. So I've been really prioritizing my health this year so I can like be in that mode of creation and not in fear as much.
So let's say you are anticipating or feeling this visceral fear. Do you have any sort of toolkit to deal with it in the moment? Or are you like, okay, I got to fucking do it and that's it?
I think it depends on the fear. So if it's like company related, What if the numbers aren't good in this unit? What if we spend too much money? What if we can't raise the money? What if a competitor is better? I'll just go. I'll go to the experience and I'll feel better every time. And I'm looking like, oh my God, it's amazing. Of course. Like, you gotta like have that inspiration to like believe in the thing, and the fear subsides. And it just also becomes like, who cares? This is so amazing and so fun. Like, of course, it's awesome. Like, so that's really helpful. And then there's the fear of like, is this person going to like me if I say this thing? And I've heard that, if you're an entrepreneur, it's better to just have no feelings and like no introspection. And that's kind of what you see on.
Yeah, that was Mark
Twitter.
Andreessen's famous meme from recently.
It's like, you don't care what people think of you. That's a weakness, Unfortunately, I'm not that vibe. Like, I want to be a good person, and maybe that's weakness as an entrepreneur. But so it becomes tough to hold boundaries if you care about what people think, So I think in those situations, what I found, my sister's a CEO also, is just like, do the thing. The faster that you do it, and when you do it, it's never that big of a deal. It's just the anticipation in advance.
Yeah, there is this book called Tools. Have you heard about it? I'm sure you probably have heard about a similar thing related to fear and pain in one of the retreats or programs that you've done. Is you just visualize pain as a big cloud, and then you tell yourself, I love pain. And then you imagine yourself go through this cloud screaming, I love pain, and basically visualizing going through the experience and priming your brain to say that this experience is actually awesome, and doing it right before, you are doing something scary, or when you have these feelings that bubble up. And it's actually really powerful and helpful. And it is kind of like going through cold plunge. Before going into cold plunge, you just tell yourself how awesome it's going to be, you visualize it, and then it's much easier to actually do it.
Yeah, all these practices are so awesome. It's like, if you find the time, I think what happens, you get busy, and then it's just like it sits in your body, and it's but there are solutions. That sounds like a perfect one. I had a friend last night who was talking about scripting, so writing a script to visualize. And he was working on it with Claude, and he would read it every night, and like everything he wanted to do. He was saying something called the reticular activating system in your brain. It, like, when you give it a focus, it will find ways to make that focus happen. And so it's kind of the scientific backing of manifestation, the scientific explanation of that. And he was just saying he's been using it, and as a result, he found like a whole bunch of patterns that made things much easier. So I thought that was really cool. And so maybe I'll try that. But that I would say 90%. Like, what I thought entrepreneurship was at first was like, I'm really talented at X thing. I'm an individual contributor. I can build this thing. And what it turns out to be is all the meditation and dark retreat and managing your emotions becomes like 90%. And it's like, am I too afraid to do this thing? Can I keep my cool? Can I react in the proper way? So I think I've changed my mind on that, how important it is to manage your psychology. And I imagine a lot of companies break just because, as a founder, your psychology breaks.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think that's like it's really important to be able to somehow turn that stress into like a game or not real stress, and like just be in acceptance mode. I think can be very valuable.
So what is on your emotional toolkit right now? Because you've said a couple of times that, okay, time is the biggest thing. If I had time, I would be doing all these practices. Are there practices you're still doing?
Yeah, so the most are just being healthy, I think, is number one. And so I flip-flop. I've tried like every single thing. Right now, for me, a couple things this year that like really moved the needle. So I put a treadmill under my desk at a Peloton, and on the Peloton, I put a Zoom, like an iPad tablet connected to Zoom. So all my calls now I take when I'm walking. And so I'm trying to get like 3 to 4 hours of zone 2 every week, plus 10,000 steps per day while I'm working. And I never was about standing desk. And I found just having that activity for my brain has been like significant. So that was one. Number two, I tried for the first time peptide, like a GLP-1, microdose amount. And I have lack of impulse control. It's like one of my challenges was an addict. So, if I was going to shop, I'll overshop. If I was going to eat, I would just crank pizzas at night. I like stimulation. And so I found the GLP-1, it really improved my impulse control. And as a result, I'm eating perfectly, which means I'm having perfect sleeps. And so I use this app called Alma, and it's a super easy food tracking app. And I think just knowing that I'm getting like my whole grains, my fruit, my vegetables, certain amount of protein, certain amount of carbohydrates, hitting my diet, like those two changes are not that big of a deal from time-wise or money-wise. And as a result, I've lost like 10 pounds. I've lost 3 or 4% body fat. And I'm still working just as hard. It's like stuff I'm doing well at work. And so I honestly think like, if you feel good if you feel healthy and your energy is high, the paybacks are enormous, because I'm even noticing now, like, that fear is like way more reduced, and something bad happens doesn't feel like a catastrophe. So those are like pretty easy shifts for people to make. And again, bodies are all individualized, but for me, those were like huge ones in the last kind of year.
I'm always amazed how big of a difference even half an hour or an hour more of sleep makes sometimes. And I'm generally a good sleeper, but let's say I sleep 7 hours one day and then consecutively for a few days, sorry, it's 6.5 hours. And then finally I go to like 7.5 hours, and it's like I'm wearing rose-colored glasses. Everything is better. Life is better. Weather is better. My attitude is better. And it's true that it's such small fundamental changes that I think so many people over-index on, you know, the supplement stack they're going to take or the meditation they're going to do, but then their sleep is shitty and their diet is shitty. So it's kind of like starting from the basics. On the competition front, do you believe that it's possible to build a business with abundance mentality, with being like, we're expanding the pie, competition doesn't matter, we're going to be friends with everyone?
Maybe. I mean, there's things that are built that do expand the pie.
I mean, I think you guys have expanded the pie. And actually a couple of times, for instance, in San Francisco, there is a couple of spaces that are imitating Othership's feel. And I remember talking to the owners and being like, oh, you know, Othership is so great in New York. And they'd be like, oh, we're friends with Robbie. You know, he's doing a great job. And I'm always like, oh, wow, you guys are all, I guess, friends expanding the pie together. But the reality is that, of course, there is certain scarcity around someone opening up a store or a space that is very similar.
Well, so brick and mortar is interesting because it's not winner take all. So it's not an Uber or a Facebook where there's one winner, there's network effects. You know, a restaurant, a coffee shop, there's going to be many. I think the issue, and also like if you're multi-city, like who cares, you know? So I'm friends with a lot of the operators in other cities because we're not actually competitors. Now, where you might have competition is when someone is a block from you. And that competition is real. People will decide, I will go to this or I will go to that. And I think that is harder to be friends than, or to be like abundance mindset. The first thought is like, yeah, we want to be better. Of course, we want to be better. Now, I don't know, like, you know, one thing I think is true is like, it's great to see your competition, see what they have, but too much focus on it. Like you can't, one thing I've learned, like I used to get so scared the first couple times. Like I never built anything anyone wanted to copy before. And the first couple times.
That's the biggest compliments when someone
does. People say that. It doesn't feel like that, you know? And I was just like, oh man. And it's now happened so many times. It's like I heard Adam Newman talking, he was saying 40,000 WeWork, similar models to WeWork across the world. And so I think it just happens. The better way to do it is just like,
focus
not
on your own
necessarily
thing
have
and
to be
making it better.
abundance, but it's just like you can't control it. You know, there's absolutely nothing you can do. So worrying, it just takes away from your energy. Now it's super easy to say. I think I'm getting better at it than I was initially, but it's still, you know, if someone is opening beside us, I'm curious what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Do we have to go faster, you know, to be in certain markets? So I would say I'm trying to be abundant and I like the idea of helping people. So definitely things I'll share, you know, if you want help with construction or insurance or like different, you know, legal stuff that's not really core to our strategy, I'm happy to like help and be cordial. And I think that's good to like pay it forward. So I'm actually friends with every Bathhouse owner. But there's still a fear and they have it too. And then sometimes we even talk about it. We'll be like, man, does it feel scary to you? Like we're competing, you know, like you just name it up front and kind of see that, okay, they're humans too, we're trying, but the incentives are like, one of us going to win. Yeah. So it's a very interesting mix of emotions.
How do you commercialize the space without losing its soul?
I think, you know, so this is like really, I've been thinking about this a lot because people say, oh, it's the community. It's a community. And I actually don't think it's possible to build a real community business. So communities are
Tell me more, why is it not possible?
Communities are small groups of like close friends that form in a decentralized way. And anything that is scaling goes against that. So the business itself is not the community. You need to build something that allows communities to be built within as a result of the product. So a good example of community, funny one, like fantasy football. People will play fantasy football as the product. Through that product, they will interact every week, sometimes for 10 years. It will deepen their friendship, where I have friends who were kind of friends in university and they've been talking for 18 years playing fantasy football because it's like a low lift thing that has ritual to it. So I think when you create a product, like first it has to be excellent. If the product experience itself is excellent and it's ritualistic, it brings people back. And then if it touches a nerve and has a mission, a mission or some type of competition. So High Rocks, great example of like a way for people to compete together. So they come back, they ritualize their training, they compete together. Othership is another example. It's people who care about processing emotions. It's a certain type, niche, and it's a ritualistic practice. And it's something that people want to do frequently. And so the product itself creates the community because it creates people that are like-minded together, but we're not a community business that builds that community, that it kind of happens organically within. And so all we can control is the product, make it good enough that the community builds itself. So I just really think that if you have a community of like, I don't know, people who listen to music and they're really interested, it's very hard to make that into a product at scale because the community naturally breaks down at a certain number of people. Whereas if you have a product that many people can use that forms many micro communities within it, I think that's how you actually build a community business.
When did you start feeling like there is a community forming from the great products of Othership?
I mean, right from the beginning, like you kind of are in the space and you watch, like, what does it mean to have a community feeling? I think it's very simple. We're actually coming out with a new product of small groups, and it's designed specifically around what makes people feel lonely. So if you study the research, people always say like, oh, belonging, loneliness, like, what does that even mean? If you ever see like, okay, you can measure your steps and your body fat and all that stuff. How do you measure social connection?
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh, social connection. Well, like, what does that mean?
What does that mean?
Does that mean we're friends? We go to a movie? Does it mean that I hold your hand? Does it mean that eye gaze? Like, what does that even mean, And if you look in the research papers, what it actually means is that you feel heard and that you feel safe. And so we're designing a class with 6 people. We're not going to call it like the loneliness class, but that's what it's for. It's to create an environment where you feel heard and where you feel safe and really amplify that environment based on the questions that are asked, getting everyone to speak, getting everyone to listen, teaching them those skills. But when we started Othership, that stuff happens naturally in a sauna because you're not on your phone and people just start talking. And so if you go to any bathhouse, there's 10 people in the sauna. Usually someone's like, hey, and you just start talking. It's because you feel amazing and you're not on your phone. So I was just seeing that happen in our garage. Like, because you come out of the ice bath, first thing you want to say is like, whoa, that was amazing. And then like, it just starts conversation. So that like initial, I feel nervous moment was like, why don't we talk to these people in this line now? Cause you're like, oh, maybe they're going to think I'm weird. What am I going to say? So the ice bath and sauna just create a forum to start talking. And it's because people start talking, they like go on dates, they become friends. And so I saw in the garage, like so many of these connections happening. It was just like very clear that like this product can create communities, but it wasn't like we're trying to build a giant community. It's like the product created it itself. And so then how do you lean in to make it even easier? So like another thing we're going to work on is creating connections digitally first, and then enabling them physically. And so it's very still like even an Othership class, like you might talk to somebody, but probably 30% chance you won't. And so you might be going there on your own journey. You might be with friends. There's friction for you to go and talk to someone because they might not want that. And then if you go and try that and you get rejected, it's like being in high school all over again. So it's very easy to make friends digitally. The rejection like isn't there in the same way. Like people are used to using dating apps and all kinds of services. And so we want to allow our community to meet and match digitally via our app, but then develop those experiences IRL. And I think that is like another huge unlock, a way to allow and reduce friction in allowing your customers to become community.
Would you then say that Othership's core mission is to reduce loneliness versus create spaces where people can, experience sauna, cold plunge, and bathhouses?
Yeah, I think the space, I don't give a shit about the, bathhouse space at all. Like was just the platform that I found was the best for helping people connect quickly. And I felt it was also the platform. So there's 2 goals. One is, helping people make friends, feel less lonely, feel seen. And the other one is processing emotions. So a lot of the stuff I was getting from these Othership classes were things I was getting in therapy or psychedelic medicines, but with way less friction. And so therapy, I've had 15 therapists and it's $250 a session. And I've had amazing ones, but to get there is hard. Like you have to explain all this stuff about yourself.
Multiple times if you switch them.
Yeah, exactly. And so like, what is the easy access point to that, the lightest lift at like an accessible price point? And I just found the hot cold classes with the group share after. They're actually doing a number of scientific papers and studies with different universities on this specific method of connecting people that don't really know each other in these classes, but they're sharing vulnerable things, but you don't know their name, but because you see them, there's like familiarity.
Yeah.
And they say it goes against how traditional socializing works. So that's fucking cool to me. So the one mission is loneliness, friendship, and the other mission is just a way to explore your emotions for maybe people who were like, I don't care about that stuff. I'm not going to do meditation. I don't care about therapy. It's like a Trojan horse to get people to feel, I think, to know themselves. Like that's my tagline, is like spaces to be yourself with others. As this idea that you can be like who you really are. I like that a lot.
How did you personally get obsessed with the emotions work? I know that you discovered Vipassana when you were in Israel and started your train when you were broke on kind of finding yourself and finding purpose. Was that the roots of your obsession with this specific problem of knowing yourself and having space for emotions?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was built like, you know, you talk about like founder market fit. Like this is the thing that like ruined my life. And so the solution to it that made me happy and like feel better is like something I want to give to other people. And so I tried so many of these things. Like I was really insecure. I really cared about like money. I was really people pleaser. I really cared what people thought about me. And so I was unhappy. I wanted to make my mom proud. All these things like normal people go through. And as a result, I got super into drugs and like almost died a couple times. And then to fix that, I had to go through a lot of these experiences. And so Vipassana was one. It was the first one where I realized like, why am I feeling this way? Like a lot of people, a lot of times it's like, I don't even know that I'm feeling insecure and frustrated and these emotions are just happening. So Vipassana was a tool of like, oh, wow, I'm not happy. You know, like there's all these feelings inside. And then psychedelic medicines really helped. And then I got sober. And so it was always after that, like, how do I feel like I can make it in this world? I feel comfortable and confident in like who I am. And so all of these tools were ways to find like, who am I? Like, how do I feel? Who am I? And the more and more I did, the darkness retreat, Hoffman process, I was like, well, these are so hard to do. Like you have to go live in a cave for 9 days. That's crazy, you know? No one's going to do that. And I would see so much change in myself. I wanted to like bring it to others. So always in my mind, I'm just thinking of like, okay, what's like really cool in religion that makes people feel a sense of meaning? How do we help people feel that way, but meet people where they're at? And I love meditation. I know maybe 4 people that meditate daily, and I know 200 that would like to, and like it just didn't work. So it was like, how do we find creative and innovative ways to make people feel who they are? And I just kind of got obsessed with like that, you know?
With retreats and personal development, do you think there is a point where you can totally overdo it? Because now there's a lot of people that, you know, make it almost their main hobby and mission to go to retreat after retreat after retreat. When was a stopping point for you?
I mean, I used to go, and now is a stop point because I'm just busy. So I think I'm probably under retreats now. Like I need more. Like I just think going once a year to not be on your phone. Even the simplest retreat is just like turning your phone off.
Sorry. Estimate.
I think that's like always useful, you know? It could be quarterly, like once annual, I think is like a really good cadence, and like maybe something 1 or 2 days quarterly in nature. But yeah, you can get lost in like, I mean, who am I to say anything? But the spirituality, I know what you mean. You're like, I just go on retreat after retreat, but then like my life doesn't change. My relationships don't change. So for me, it was really like, I did use those things in my life did change. But most important thing is like my relationship with my wife and how am I feeling in terms of fear? Am I feeling meaning? And like, even with this job, sometimes I'll feel like overwhelmed and scared. It's like, what am I doing? Am I falling backwards? You know, and like, am I human also? So maybe the beauty is just in being like, you asked me, like, do you really change? And I was like, I don't know if you do, but like you feel the same emotions, but maybe you just accept them more easily. So I definitely think there's space for retreats annually, but then you have to ask yourself, like,
Am I actually making changes?
and are my relationships
better?
yeah. And like, maybe you don't need to go. Maybe your relationships are great. And like I don't know, some childhood and didn't go through struggle and you feel confident and like, awesome. Then, you know, you're a great person in the world and you can just enjoy your relationships. But for me, it was something that was like, I needed to be, I think I'm heal parts from when I grew up.
Yeah, I find that retreats could be helpful for anyone, but it's key to actually do the integration and do the changes, because it's very easy to be like, oh, well, I need to, you know, have this piece of information and learn a little more about myself. And then finally I'll be free and I'll be fully healed. But then it's actually about going out into the world and maybe making more mistakes, or maybe seeing how you actually can apply the concepts that you've learned to create that change versus like over retreating yourself all the time.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I agree. I agree.
How did you meet your wife?
I messaged her on, so our friends sat us beside each other at a wedding. So two of our friends are like dating and got married. And I sat beside her at this wedding, and it was back when I used to do drugs. And so I was doing drugs at the wedding, and I didn't eat any of my food, but we talked for like 4 hours. And I was like, wow, I really have a crush on this girl. And then she kind of started dating one of my friends. I moved away and I was like super jealous. And so then we didn't talk for a while. I was living in Israel. I like went on this whole trip where I did the Vipassana and got sober. And I was posting about it. And I think in Toronto at that time, not a lot of people were interested in like Vipassana and psychedelic medicine. And she was like, whoa, that's really cool. And so I just out of the blue, like messaged her. She posted something on Instagram, and it was kind of like making fun of her, like just like, hey, cool. Like kind of like a douchey, yeah, like flirty kind of vibe. I don't know if I would do that today, but she messaged me back, and then we talked the entire trip. And then I was like, hey, I'm coming home. Like, do you want to pick me up from the airport? And like, we'll hang. And she picked me up from the airport, and I was like, oh, I'm going out for lunch with my mom and my grandma.
Oh, that's very direct. You were just like, pick me up.
Yeah, again, I'm like looking back, I'm like, oh, this is insane. So, but then I was like, yeah, I'm going out for lunch with my mom and my grandma. Do you want to come? And that was our first date, was lunch with my mom and my grandma. And my grandma was like, I like this girl. I think you're going to marry her. And she always like claims that now. It's super like, I knew right from the beginning. And then our second date was she did research and was like, hey, I think, I know you don't drink. We should try this thing, the cold plunge. I saw Rhonda Patrick talking about it. I think it could be good for what you want to do. So it was like her idea completely. And then we went to that bathhouse the first time. And we went every week. Actually got married, got engaged inside our sauna in the garage with like a little ice ball. And she was giving me a massage and the ring was inside. And so I think I really felt like a bad person before dating her. And just kind of, I had like a negative view of myself from like partying and like doing things that are maybe selfish. And so I just thought like, wow, if I'm like a really good person in this relationship, it will there's like this thing called like the Michelangelo effect. Have you heard of it?
No, I haven't.
It's like the partner you're with, by you imagining them to be a certain way, can make you better. And so I was like, wow, this girl is so good. She's so smart. She's so amazing. If I can like be a good partner for her, I must be a good person. And then it made me feel like I'm a good person. It gave me like a ton of confidence to start this business.
Almost like affirmations.
Yeah. So it just, that relationship built up my character so much. And I think without her, I don't know if I would have been able to stay away from drugs and alcohol and have done this thing. So it's really a beautiful story. And I credit like all the idea to kind of her. And that's like probably my most joyful thing in my life.
That's incredible. I love that. What do you think she saw in you?
No, man. I think like, people want like a fix, someone who can be fixed, I guess, is a dream. It's like,
she was a fixer.
I can be the one that changes this person.
Well, she did.
Yeah. So
I guess sometimes it works.
I have like a big heart. I think I'm like pretty soft on the inside, but like sometimes if I get scared, I'll be aggressive because I'm afraid. But inside, I'm like a little soft little boy. And I think she just loved that. She saw like a big heart and an exciting person who, also like, I'm the type to always do new things. So I'll do research and like, oh, let's go on this adventure, or like, let's do this thing. And like, I think she just thought it was interesting. So I think those things, I think somebody who would like love her and like be like really fun. I always support her also and like push her. So, when she started, she had a master's in science, and it's like, you have these people that are like very underrated. Like they're very smart, but then choose something that doesn't give them a chance to grow. And so she was working at a hospital. It was like an okay job. And now she like runs marketing for this huge company, and she crushes it. She like runs our paid ads. She does design. She's like learned how to manage an engineering team. Like, and so I think if you get smart people and like push them to grow, they can just like flower. And so when we first were starting dating, she was like very more shy. And I think like, now she manages 9 people and is like holding them accountable.
Crushing it.
That badass mom also, that's been insane to see her be like a mom, like how much she cares about her son, to see what like the love of a mom is crazy. So I've watched her like, I guess I pushed her also, and have watched her like grow into this like fierce mama. And it's pretty fucking cool. So yeah, I think we both have been very synergistic.
That's beautiful. And I love the way you talk about her and how, she made you better. On the point about being a father and a mother in her case, so you guys have a 3.5, 4-year-old son?
Yeah.
How did being a father change you and change your outlook on the business?
I have ADHD. It's like very hard for me when they're like super young because I found it so boring. And so it's like a bad, maybe I don't know, say on a podcast, but I just always try to be honest and transparent.
I think that's true. I've heard that from a lot of people. The kid doesn't really do much, doesn't interact.
Yeah.
So
Especially for the dad. And I'm not like a natural caretaker. Like some people are. It's not what I get like stimulation from in that way. And like chores, like I've never like really, I like don't like that. And so for the first 2 years, I felt like he loves my wife so much, which is awesome. She's like, their bond is like insane. Like he follows her into the bathroom, we'll be holding her hand. We let him sleep in our bed actually, which at first was like really cute, but now he like he'll like be like, Daddy, like go to your own bed. Like get out of the room. I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah. So that's a whole story. But I think at first I was more like, I'm trying to build this business. I used to be able to work at this time. At night, I'm like trying to be a dad, but I can't like, all I'm thinking about is like worry around work. And then now I'm like, actually so I don't even really like to be here away for more than 2 days. I start to miss my family. And it's like fun. Like it's just different.
when did you have that shift? How old was your son?
2.5 was when it started to really shift. And now it's like he asked for me if I'm not there. He's like, where's dad? And like, I want to, we call it a polar bear. I put him on my shoulders. I walk him to school every day. I pick him up from school every day and I put him on my shoulders and carry him home. And like, he's asking for that when I'm not home. And so I think those moments are like really amazing. And for someone who's always in his head, it's very helpful for me to like ground for a bit and just feel like human and less focused on work, which for a high achiever, that's like a bit neurotic. It's hard to get out of that vibe. So I think it's really changed my life in just terms of feeling grateful.
Yeah.
But it's been hard too. Like I'm like a nostalgic person. And so I will look at old photos and I'll like start crying. So we're trying to have a second, but we're having fertility challenges. I've been trying for like a year. And then I'm like, man, did I fucking miss these 2 years because I was working so much and I like wasn't emotionally there. Like I was there, like we work from home and I'm there every day, but I was just like, yeah, it felt like some regret. And so I'd look at these old photos and be like, oh, I should have been more present. And I start crying and like, he's still young. So I can like make up, he's only 3.5. So I'm sure I can.
Yeah, you probably won't remember.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway.
So just the emotions that come up. It's like, am I a good dad? How much time should I spend? But also like, I want to be healthy and I want to have a relationship with my wife and I want to be a good CEO and I want to build. And you can't do all those things though. So there's like 5 things, right? There's like dad, relationship as a husband, health, work, and friends. And so the first and easiest to let go is friends. So no friends, basically for the last couple of years, no social life.
Well, you have your co-founders, right?
Yeah,
Your best friends.
Yeah. And so like, that's work. I kind of put it, but yes. But so no, like, hey, let's go for dinner and like go play paddle and, just very much none of that. Then there was health and I really sacrificed my health for the first few years building the company. But in the last year, that's become a priority. So I feel better. And then there's work, which is like super important. I always want to work more. And you hear people be like, oh, you're a parent, like you just become more productive. Maybe, but there was like.
That hasn't happened to you.
Well, like 7 to 9 a.m. I used to I would work. And then like 5 to 7 p.m. we go do dinner. We do dinner as a family every night. We sit down 5 p.m. no matter what. I'll come downstairs, we'll cook dinner and then we put him to bed. And then on the weekends, like one day. So there's like time. Now, do I need to be doing that much work now? Probably not. I'm probably not effective. Maybe I should be more efficient. But there's way more there. And then being a husband, we're tired all the time. So how do you like continue to be romantic?
Any tips for that? What do you guys do?
I find my wife more sexy now than like ever. Like
because of her becoming a mom,
yeah,
or
like I just watch her at work and how she is, and I watch how like confident she's become, and I watch how much she loves her son. And it's like you always think of like what kind of partner do you want to pick, and like one that's nurturing and caring and like capable of that kind of love and sacrifice for somebody. It's like so lucky. So that like turns me on, and like I just find her so sexy, more so than like, it's pretty crazy actually. So I don't know if it's because I'm healthier or what, but like I found her more attractive as we've gotten.
That's incredible.
Older. So that feel like I wish we had more time together. That was just us. Cause like he was around like to get the nanny, and it's like, we just started going on dates again, which has been awesome. And then there's time as a dad. And so I feel like I'm doing 0 out of 10 on friends. So I sometimes feel lonely. Like 9 out of 10 on health, 8 out of 10 on work, 9 out of 10 relationship. And then like as a dad, like getting better. So they're all like good, but not friends is bad. But none are like perfect. And so you just kind of sacrifice, like you can't do all those things. So it's like a bit of a weird feeling for somebody who wants to be like, I don't know. How do you think about it?
About which part specifically?
Like, how do you, if you're planning on a family and kids and stuff and like having all those things be successful?
I am hoping that it's going to be possible to design my life where I would be able to have it all in a way. But at the same time, I'm also not thinking that I will be, going super, super hard on something that's going to be like the next billion-dollar company. I actually just ended up shutting down the startup that I was working on.
Yeah.
So perhaps, I'm saying this because I have this very recent trauma of going really hard and then having to take a step back. So never say never. But at the moment, I'm really trying to figure out how to design systems and like really fill my cup when I'm starting to feel not great, and kind of inserting, the friends or inserting the family whenever my body tells me that I have to, because it's very easy to lose yourself. And I'm kind of thinking that it's almost like a part of your job to be fulfilled, to be able to work really hard as well. Yeah, exactly. So obviously it all sounds great hypothetically, but I don't know if I'll be able to really, really execute on it, but that's how I'm thinking about it.
Cool. Yeah, we'll have to touch base once you have your family here into it.
Yeah. I'm curious about becoming a father. Were you one of those people who always saw yourself as a dad, or are you more experiential? Like you wanted to become a dad because it would be like a cool human experience to go through?
I think it just felt normal, like a normal thing to do as part of society. Like I never really thought I was.
So you never was like, oh my God, all I'm dreaming about is to be a dad? Because there are some people like that.
No, but I also wasn't like, oh, I don't want to be a father. It was just kind of like, oh, this is going to happen someday. I actually wish I had kids earlier. So if I could go back, well, I was 38, we had our first. Now I'm 41 and I'm just a little bit older, and it's like bringing me so much joy. And so despite all the work, I'm like guessing if I've in the same day, I'm like, I'd never want another kid. And then I'm like, oh, I want 5. I just think this idea of like being around, my wife forced this on us, was like be around the dinner table. I didn't eat dinner as much as my family. It was sometimes. But she did it every night. It was like at the time. And so that's what we do. And it's like so joyful. And I could just see having like 4 kids around. Like it's amazing, like there's these things that are awesome. And I just was with a friend at Othership while you were there. And he was saying like he went on a surf trip with his son and they slept on the beach and he's 7 years old.
That's amazing.
And I was like, whoa, that's going to be so fun, And he's like, even that age, like I've heard the mom is like 0 to 6, like
is the primary
everything.
Care, yeah.
And then the son like wants to push into the world. And it's like kind of the dad's job to the mom's safety, and the dad is like pushing him out a bit. And so like from 6 to 12, it's like the dad's time to like, so I'm like really excited about that more so. But for a long time, I was like, oh, I got to make money. I'm not going to be secure. How am I going to afford it? How am I going to have the time? I'm so selfish. I want to be healthy too. And so I was like, I don't really want it. And so I think I was afraid and maybe too selfish. And then now that I have a son, I'm like, I kind of like, it would be nice to have more, but I feel old to have more. So.
I think now, with longevity and everything, hopefully we'll live a healthful life for much longer. So you'll be able to enjoy the kids.
Maybe it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I think the reoccurring theme is fear, like fear of getting old, fear of losing money, fear of losing the business, fear of the competition crushing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to talk about Othership's culture and values. Every time you go into the space, it's amazing to see how every employee is super grateful to be there, is like super kind and warm, and clearly is obsessed with the fact that, they get to work at Othership. What is the hiring process like, and what is the training process like? I'm sure you guys have some sort of crazy playbook.
Yeah, so we do. We have 3 core values: inspiring awe, building belonging, cellular commitment. And it's just this idea: inspiring awe is like feeling like a child. Cellular commitment is that like, yeah, it's hard. Like wellness growth, that's hard, also requires commitment. And then building belonging is that we're doing this to help people become friends, feel like who they are. So that was like our core values. They're like pretty prevalent, but again, like who cares what these things you just say, how do you embody them? I think the most important thing is honestly people just using the product. And so we give prizes, we track how many times people are going, we'll ensure they've gone to every class, we'll shout out people who go to a lot of classes. And so I just say, if you go to a class on acceptance and you cry and it moves you, of course, you're going to be in the space and like working there, So I think the most important thing is that people use the product. So we'll never hire anyone who is like, oh, I don't sauna cold plunge. Like, okay, it's not going to be a fit for you. So you can have all like the fancy training. But I think the number one thing is like, do you feel like you're giving value to others? Are you proud of this thing? And then I think people see the founders like, Harry and Amanda were working in there 16-hour days. They wrote all the classes. They are the best guides. So the guides themselves can be inspired because it's not like just some business guys telling them. It's like, wow, they walk the walk, they do the thing.
It's almost the same as raising a kid, lead by example.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's people love that. And it's like, there's a real mission, like what kind of spa is like, yeah, we're going to make a dent in loneliness, So I think people love to work for a mission-oriented brand that's real. And like, people can compete, they can copy the design, they can copy the classes, but like we started this in a backyard, not to make money, it's for a purpose of connecting people. And that's like real, it's authentic, And so I think people, they like that, they want to be part of something that has an authentic story. And like in a world of AI where anything can be fake now, that's like the hottest commodity is just like people doing authentic things for a real reason. So I think people liking the product, liking the story, and it's just a good vibe. Like people are generally happy when they leave. So if you see you're in class and someone cries and it's like, wow, you changed my day. It's like, holy shit. Of course I want to be in here. Everybody's super friendly. Like it's awesome. It smells good. Like the space is actually just very pleasant. And then we have a 200-hour training program as well. And we've always been obsessed. Like I always thought fitness.
And you train everyone from the front desk staff to the guides.
Front desk, guides, the deckhands, which are, the front desk called stewards. So there's names for every position: first mate, ship captain, assistant ship captain. We like really believe in world building. So we'll never sell another product out front. So if you look, it's very unique for brick and mortar space. Like we don't carry products. We carry only our own line. We make our own essential oils. We make our own incense, have our own signature scents. All the body care in the experience smells like the classes. So we control every single element. I think that level of detail provides like excellence and brings you into our world. So I think language is like really important. Like it's not, people are always like, hey, we've got some journeys for you. And they're like, journeys? Like what the fuck is that? We call our customers journeyers. So I just think it's important to have a world that people can be a part of to like really feel bought in. And that's why people say it's a cult. Like it's a cult because you have such emotional experiences, but that's what you want if you're building a consumer product. It's like I look at like the Bible, or like a religion where like people hate it or they love it. And so if you want to give meaning, you have to be, you have to create emotions. I'm like a firm believer in that for building all the best brands do that.
How did you learn that? Like, how did you learn that you needed to have shared language, that you needed to instill these values? So at which point did you realize that that was the playbook? And that actually segues into one of the things I'm really curious about. You obviously have the tech startup background. One of your startup really failed. Yeah. And then you went to Ethereum. Was any of that learned through that experience, or that was completely different?
I think every experience, like you learn something, and over time you start to realize like the first one is just like, hey, I can solve a problem and I can figure it out. Like I remember like in banking, I worked in finance. I was so trained to solve a problem in a certain way from school. And when I got to the first startup, it was like, oh, we need to print this like flyer. And I was like, oh, how do you do that? It's like, I'm going to call the flyer company and find a designer and do the thing. And just the idea of like, once you get into a startup, like you just have to solve the problems on your own from end to end without asking for help. Like, how do you actually make something happen from end to end? So that was like a pretty big, learning to start just that attitude. And then with that attitude, I got really into like founders' biographies. So I've listened to probably every episode of Founders Podcast. And I've taken a lot.
Tell me about the ones that particularly inspired you.
I really like the episodes on like, he does these ones on like how X works. So like how Elon works, how Jensen works, how Steve Jobs works. And so I'll listen to all of these, like especially like this, there's like 12 or 14 on Steve Jobs. And so listening to how he creates products and how much he cares, that is amazing. Like that lesson of like the details matter. And you might not think they do, and you don't know which ones matter. So some don't, but you don't know which ones are important. And so when you have a level of care on something, people can feel it. And so they'll come to Othership and be like, I went to this place and it just didn't have the soul. And it's like, yeah, because
the level of detail is insane.
The sandwich board out front, it's like a custom sandwich board. Like, so nobody else has that sandwich board.
Or like the James Turrell inspired lights. That one is so cool.
So there's so many different like little things like that. So that I learned from Steve Jobs, from Walt Disney. Again, like, there's one episode on Disneyland's and he was saying, like he used real leather on the horse carriages, and the team was like, nobody will ever know, like we should just cheap out. And he was like, the customer knows, they're not stupid. So that was really, it's so inspiring how he built Disneyland, like thinking that you can do these crazy things and bringing something in your mind to vision. And then I've listened to a ton of the brick and mortar experiences. So got pretty obsessed with hospitality. My family's in restaurant business. I've done the Danny Meyer training. I went to Will Guidara's conference.
What's a Danny Meyer training?
So he's the creator of 11 Madison Park and one of the most famous restaurateurs. And then Will Guidara worked there and turned it into the #1 restaurant in the world. And so he has a book called Unreasonable Hospitality. He has a new book that just came out called The Unreasonable Hospitality Field Guide. And so I think gyms traditionally have been just shit, like bad hospitality for the most part, same as fitness. And so turning restaurant hospitality where it's like so high stakes, and so important for the experience to be good, and bringing that into our space has been something that really inspired me. So I learned a lot. Again, there's an episode on Danny Meyer there. There's other brick and mortar people that just like Todd Graves from Raising Cane's has been at it for 40 years. And he's built a $30 billion chicken finger company. When you listen to how much he cares, like every single ingredient is hand selected in the chicken fingers to make them the best chicken fingers in the world. I just love listening to this stuff, and through it, it kind of inspires you when you're having a bad day of like, okay, no, the details are important. The product matters. I can be like this obsessed about something and people will care and they'll notice.
Do you think that level of obsession can be learned, or you really have to be working on something that you genuinely, deeply, deeply care about it?
Yeah, I think you have to work on something that you care about. Otherwise, you just won't. It doesn't have to be necessarily the product itself, but you have to be excited about solving the problem. I think it's very hard over a long period of time to do something you don't enjoy. And so when I'm like talking to my co-founder about today we were talking about a tea offering and how could we elevate our tea offering to make it like professional tea ceremony? And could we make our own glassware and sell the glassware with local artisans and have these like crazy full-scale tea ceremonies and build in our new space like a proper tea room you might find in other cultures. And it was so exciting. Like I was getting like pumped, and we're like brainstorming. There's just like an energy in my chest, like a feeling. And I'm thinking about it. I'm like, oh, like building that experience. What would people do? Could we add breath work to it? Could we have like questions and journaling as part of the tea ceremony? And just like thinking about that stuff was exciting. So I could do that all day. I would do that for free. I would go out to these experiences and go to these classes just for fun. So I think if like that makes it a lot easier to work on something for a long period of time if you really care.
What's the recent experience that really inspired you?
So there's a place like we're doing now. I mentioned like the social spa treatments, and there's a place I really like downtown Brooklyn called World Spa. And there's a very specific Venic experience there. I learned about the Venic through that experience and this glazing with honey and salt on your
the
body.
Russian Venic, right? Yeah. I actually grew up going to the banya every single weekend. My grandparents had a banya, and then the men in the family.
Like in their house?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because it's so common. I mean, not literally in the house. It was an outpost, like a separate building.
Yeah.
And the men of the family would go to the forest to cut the trees to make Venic. So we always had custom made, men-made, like our family-made Venics.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I went to that experience and learned about it. And then I found this guy, Dan the Banya Man is his name, and he's from one of the Slavic countries, and he lives in Minneapolis. So we went out to his house for this 5-hour sauna experience in the woods, and it was him and his family, and they made us fresh tea and food, and it was all these crazy things happening in the sauna. And I was like, wow, like I can't believe, like our experiences are 1 to 64, and in 1 to 64 you can only give so much attention to each journeyer. But for him,
what do you mean by 1 to 64?
One guide, 64 people.
Oh.
So you're kind of watching the guide, but you're not 1-to-1. And so in this experience, it was 1-to-1. It was almost psychedelic in terms of how intense the heat was.
Go to the spa.
And what was happening. And so I got so excited of like, oh, can we bring an experience like this that's more 1-to-1? So now in the social spa, we're going to have more 1-to-1, 1-to-4 programming. And that whole idea came from that experience. And now we're like in the process of implementing that. So that probably was the most inspiring idea of last year, and will be the biggest change to Othership, to move from like 1 to 64 class to 1-to-4, 1-to-1 programming in addition.
That's incredible, and that's gonna come across all Otherships, not just the Upper East Side.
We'll test like the Upper East Side. It's harder in the current Otherships because the sauna is so large, so there's no actual private space. Whereas in Upper East, there's smaller features, so there's more ability to carve out a feature for like a 1-to-1 or 1-to-4 experience. but you never know, like, until you start testing. So maybe during a free flow when it's less busy, there'll be a way to carve out private experiences, or maybe people don't care that it's private and we'll just have like a little section of the sauna where we'll do different experiences. So I just think trying new experiences all the time. Like I've been to every bathhouse in New York, like multiple times. I've been to over 100 bathhouses worldwide. I've been across like 20 countries.
What are your top 3 across the world? Outside of Othership, of course.
My favorite one is Balnia, and it's on the outskirts of Montreal. It's the same family that created Boda Boda. And from them, I learned the importance of a view. And it's really made me consider that like some of our spaces should have an outdoor component. I think it's something missing. It's hard in the city. But it's on a private lake. And there's this pool on the top of this hill where you're just looking at this private lake. And it's so stunning, the view. And then the food's all farm to table. And then you can go down and swim in the lake. And they built this like meditation, like beautiful wooden kind of room with sand on the ground where you put your feet in the sand and you look out at the lake. And so it's like you're watching a movie of nature. So that's probably my favorite. From a programming standpoint, my second favorite was probably this Dan the Bunyan experience, like 1-to-1 deep in the woods. He had made this hot tub with copper cables around a fire.
It's deep in the woods in Brooklyn?
In Minnesota.
Oh, it's in Minnesota.
Yeah, so you're out on the outskirts of Minneapolis. So he made this hot tub with a copper cable around a fire, and the fire itself would heat the copper cable, would heat the water. Yeah, so he has this hot tub and it's got a fire in the middle. So you're sitting in the woods, like 110 degrees outside, individual hot tub, like watching a fire in front of your face. It's like, wow, like this is amazing. So just these type of experiences I like to go to that are like very extreme, and then see what we can learn from them and then bring them back. You know, one time we did this we have like these creative retreats. And so we did one around a fire with like a drum circle. It was inspired by like Kanye West's Sunday service, this idea that like doing music outside. And so my co-founder Harry made this amazing electronic music track with breathwork over where you're also drumming to a beat. And so we all took some psilocybin and spent 3 hours like drumming while doing breathwork to just be more creative. And it was incredible, like fun thing to do in a group. And so I think
what were the ideas that came out of it?
That one we actually went to when we were designing New York. So it was a full design weekend. And so every night we would do these breathworks to send like ideas to the subconscious. Then we had this 15-star experience that, you know, I'd heard Brian Chesky talk about. And so everyone on the team wrote like 20-page summary of the perfect Othership experience if there was no money required. Like if that wasn't an object, if someone had an idea to make the sauna, like you come into it and it's like a gravitron and it like spins into like a basement and a secret underwater coal punch cave, like a waterfall. Through that, we just realized, you know, diving deeper into the programming is always valuable. But we did a bunch of cool stuff on the retreat, and it led to like the design and like the look and feel of this particular space. So we brought our designer, and so we always do these kind of offsite retreats to get ideas. And I think they're like very fun and impactful.
I want to end on a point of balance. So we briefly talked about, you know, there's family, there's work, there's friends, something has to go. You're going so hard. There's health, of course, also. Do you feel like there is going to be a stopping or scaled down point at some point? Because I know you're building this for the long term.
Yeah, I mean, now like health is back. So that's important. And I used to just be like, oh, I'm going to have 100 calls today. So I don't do partnerships anymore. My sister does. So she's taking that over and is crushing it. I don't do finance anymore. We have a full finance team. I just hired our first senior executive. He's unbelievable. So he's really helped me. Like he's owning construction where I had to like be involved a lot. So
how many people Othership has right now?
250.
Okay, wow, that's pretty substantial.
Yeah. No, it's hard to keep. Like it's at a point now where I can't really keep on top of everything. So I feel like our executive team for the first time is like really solid. So I think now I'll be able to focus more again on like product and new experiences. So we need some more money too. So I have to figure that out. But every time, you know, it becomes just like, oh, I'm just 1 month away from getting back to the product. So I hope that's actually true this time. But I could see the next year having just this like fully focused on product and new spaces and it being just so much fun.
And last thing, what's your life philosophy in one sentence?
I think just acceptance. You know, just that one word, yeah.
Okay, amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much, Robbie. This was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.